Welcome, everyone. Before we get started with our caucus tonight, we have some special guests here tonight. We have Luther Farms is celebrating 125th anniversary, so we're going to give them a proclamation, and they are located in Richfield. So if we can have them come on up.
125 years. That's a lot.
You're going to be. They have a lot of family. They have a lot of grandchildren and great grandchildren, I believe. You can come on up.
There's no limit. No limits, right?
Takes all of us. Right, it does. It takes everybody. This is why you're celebrating 125 years, because. All right, so everyone, welcome. Luther Farms 125th anniversary. Whereas Luther Farms, located at 5150 Alger Road in Richfield, Ohio, has been farmed by the Luther family since 1900. Swiss-born Rudolf Luther was 11 years old in 1868 when he and his family immigrated to America and settled in Stark County. Rudolf spent his adolescent years there before marrying and moving to Akron, where he distributed milk and dairy products. He even provided milk and cream at the 1886 wedding of Thomas Edison and Mina Miller. And whereas Rudolph moved to Richfield in 1890s to manage the Brush and Stouffer farms before finally buying 100 acres of his own for $3,600 at a sheriff's auction, which is now Luther Farms. Rudolph's eldest son, Edward, was 18 when his father purchased the property and started farming alongside his father in 1901. Edward married Eva White, and the couple moved to the White farmhouse on the farm and started raising their family of 5 children: Louise, Rudolph, Elmer, Arthur, and Ellen. Disaster struck in 1915, where their house burned to the ground. While it was being rebuilt, they lived in the granary just behind his Uncle Harvey's house, which stands next to the present-day farm market. And whereas while the farm originated as a dairy farm in 1930, Eva began the chicken and egg business, where she would trade eggs for groceries in town. Electricity came to the farm in 1936, and Edward was able to buy an electric milker. Then in 1940, the Luthers purchased their first tractor and said goodbye to their last team of horses, Dick and Doc. With the sale of the horses, they had to scale back their large maple syrup operation due to the tractor being unable to navigate the narrow horse trails. Rudy also decided to upgrade his mother's egg business and built a double-decker chicken house, which is still on the farm today. He started selling fresh eggs door to door in Brecksville and in Parma until 1970. Whereas the 2 Luther sisters, Louise and Ellen, began working at B.F. Goodrich in Akron, where they befriended Helen Boughton. They introduced Helen to their brother Rudy, and the 2 married in 1945. Edward allowed each son to build a home on the farm and raise their families. Rudy and his brother Art established partnership to run the farm, and in 1957 they bought a white barn from Newton family on Broadview Road, and using logs moved it across Alger Road, where it still stands on the farm today. Whereas the 1950s also saw the switch from dairy to Black Angus cattle, along with installation of a silo on the farm. Edward was named Farmer of the Year in 1957 by the Cleveland Farm Club. Rudy and Helen had 7 children between 1946 and 1961. Dorothy, Barbara, Robert, Ronald, Betty, Marilyn, and Edward. In 1964, the Luthers built a chicken house to keep 9,000 hens producing more than 6,000 eggs each day. That's a lot of eggs. The children were responsible for collecting the eggs while the Luther wives washed, graded, and packaged the eggs for sale. And whereas in 1970, Robert married Diane and started their family of 5, Scott, John, Timothy, Daniel, and Sarah. In 1972, Rudy fell from a ladder while dismantling a grain bin in Medina and was paralyzed. Bob became a partner in the farm operation after his father's injury. Although Rudy could not walk, he still did his part, beekeeping, sharpening tools, and giving Art and Bob advice. 8 years later, Art retired, and Rudy's youngest son, Eddie, bought Art's share of the farm and to run with his older brother. And whereas in January of 1982, the red barn that had stood so long on the farm burned to the ground due to an electrical short from old wiring. The fire was fought by 7 local fire departments over 13 hours, which served the White Bank barn from certain destruction. In 1989, Eddie married Gail, and they moved into his great-uncle Harvey's house, which stands next to the current farm market. They had 4 boys, Edward, Andrew, Brian, and Cody. And whereas in 1993, the Luther family decided to get out of the poultry and the egg business and instead focused on cash crops and beef, opening Luther's Farm Market. It initially was just a small sweet corn stand in front of Eddie and Gail's house. Today, Bob and Eddie continued farming the land continued to farm the land they were raised in. And in 2000, Luther Farms celebrated 100 years of farming in Ridgefield. In 2003, Eddie was diagnosed with ALS and sold his part of the partnership to Bob's son, Tim. While unable to physically work on the farm, Eddie was able to give his opinion and direction to his nephew before passing away in 2006. Bob is now semi-retired from farming. Eddie's son, Andy, stepped into the shoes to run the farm and the market with Tim. They're not alone. They have help from numerous family members. Chances are, if you stop by the market, a Luther will be helping you out. After 125 years, the farm continues to hum along thanks to the unfailing tenacity of the Luther family and the farmers that have tended to her. Now, therefore, let it be known and declared by the Council of the County of Summit, State of Ohio, that Council commends Luther Farms on their 125 years and 5 generations of ownership and operation of the family farm, which has become a staple in Ridgefield Township and Summit County. We urge all citizens to join in celebrating this milestone, 16th day of June in this year, 2025. That was long. Say a few words. No? Okay. Do you want to say anything?
Go ahead.
May I ask what generation the baby's going to be? Like what generation? 6. Okay, 6 generations. So, yes. Oh, there's another child right there too.
Somebody wants to say, Gail, you
Yeah.
want to say something?
Farmers, we work hard and stay low.
Shop Luther's Farm Market.
Yes, yeah, please, Shep. You want to come up and say a few words, please?
Yeah, I'll try. Well, we appreciate Summit County obviously helping us out here with this, and as you can see, it's pretty emotional for us. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard way to live, but we enjoy it. So we appreciate you coming out and letting us come up here and do this. So we look forward to another 100 years, hopefully. So thank you.
Eileen Shapiro, would you like to come up and say something, please? I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, don't be silly. These are the things that give us the most pleasure because real people are doing real stuff. And not only are you creating a business, you're creating generations that have the same kind of grit and tenacity and purpose. And for me, this is just heart share. It's heart share. I know it's hard work, but most families don't hang together like this. You know that. And it's not easy work. So on behalf of myself, council's already spoken, and the other 540,000 people in Summit County that you serve, thank you. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for creating this legacy that has lived on for years and will continue to live on. So thank you.
This way.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming out.
They are cute. Where they're parking.
Yeah, make sure they have parking. I think they do. Okay, next on our caucus sheet, we have 4 public comments tonight, and I know that you've been here for a while, and we have a long meeting tonight, so we're going to go on and get the public comments. I'm going to bring up Ben. Is Ben here? Come on up. Ben, I need you to give us your address, and you have 3 minutes, Ben.
Perfect. Hello, Summit County Council. My name is Ben Sponson. I live on 11500 Leela Avenue in Greentown, Ohio. I come here today in solidarity with the Akron Palestine community, and I'm just going to keep it short and sweet for you. I come here to say thank you. Thank you so much for listening to your constituents in the greater Summit County community as a whole. As we all know, $2 million in Israeli bonds set to expire on August 1st, and you guys will keep your promise with us and allow these bonds to expire instead of renewing. These bonds are tying every Summit County resident to the state of Israel, a state that is currently committing a genocide that is recognized by every major human rights organization around the world. Again, I just want to thank you for the great work that all of you do for the people of Summit County and for listening to the wonderful people who have come here over the past months to talk to you about their struggle. Again, thank you everyone and have a great night. That'll be all.
Thanks, Ben. Next, we have Anna Stevenson. Anna, please state your address, and you have 3 minutes.
All right. Hi, my name is Anna Stevenson. My address is 5694 Rhodes Road in Kent, and while I'm not a resident of Summit County, this is an extremely important issue to me. I'm here today to urge you to not reinvest the $2 million of Israel bonds expiring in August. Earlier this year, the Council made the commitment that it would not invest money in any country that is committing atrocities. You held true to this and did not reinvest the $1 million worth of Israel bonds that expired. Thank you for this. Despite the brief ceasefire, Israel has continued to commit horrific atrocities against the people of Palestine. In May, the World Health Organization reported that the entire population of Gaza, 2.1 million people, is facing prolonged food shortages, which is with a fourth of those people being in an active state of crisis. 75% of those people are at emergency or catastrophic food deprivation. Should this continue, 71,000 children under age 5 are expected to be acutely malnourished over the next year. All of this is due to a deliberate blockade of life-saving aid by Israel. The World Health Organization says that it has a significant amount of aid just sitting outside the borders, not allowed to enter Gaza, and they are far from alone. Every credit rating agency currently rates Israel bonds with a negative outlook, citing Israel's aggressive behavior. It would be irresponsible to reinvest these funds, especially when still much could be done with that $2 million within the communities of Summit County. I urge you to please consider my testimony and the testimonies of all my peers. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Phaedra Norell. Phaedra, 3 minutes, and then your address too. Thank you, Phaedra.
Good evening, council members, and for the record, my name is Phaedra Norell, and I live at 1971 Liberty Road in Stowe, Ohio. We're here this evening, and not only will I echo the thanks and the gratitude that's come before, but we're here to voice our continued support for divestment of Summit County from Israeli war bonds. In the past week alone, Israel has escalated conflict in the region with missile strikes on Iran, which have killed over 200 civilians and injured over 1,000 more. Israel has called these attacks, quote unquote, preemptive strikes. However, no provision for preemptive strikes exists under international law, and therefore, these strikes are aggression, and Iran has responded with a massive show of force with strikes into Israeli territory, namely with Tel Aviv and a couple of other settlements. Additionally, most access to the internet in Gaza has been severed, so images and reporting of the atrocities cannot exit the Strip, and if they do, it's very few and far between. There's very few people that can actually access service, and it's through an eSIM connection, so it's not great. And this is giving Israel carte blanche to carry out war crimes, and the world will turn a blind eye, as they have for the past over 600 days. The increased aggression of Israel is directly connected to the genocide in Gaza, as the refusal of world governments to condemn the genocide and sanction Israel has emboldened them to take more aggressive, decisive action against their neighboring countries. Therefore, it remains paramount to divest from Israel and keep our communities' dollars here at home. Not only can those dollars work in our communities, but keeping the funding here prevents death and destruction halfway across the world. There are very few things in politics that are a win-win situation, but this strikes me as a very strong win-win. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your previous commitment that we will hope that you honor to continue divesting from Israel. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phaedra. There you go. Next, we have Kent Quaid. Kent, your address in 3 minutes, please, sir.
1110 Ellsworth Drive, Akron, Ohio 44313. My name is Robert Quaid, Kent Quaid. I want to thank Summit County Council for its part in the Investment Advisory Board's decision not to reinvest Israel bonds when the first of Summit County's 3 investments in those bonds matured this last February. In a few short weeks, the second of the county's Israel bond holdings, this one $2 million, will reach maturity. I encourage Summit County, that's not really the right word. I implore Summit County Council from the bottom of my heart to exercise the same logic and influence with the advisory board, hopefully with the same result. As I have said before, we are your constituents. You act in our name, speak with our voice, and both protect and project our collective conscience. It is my sincerest hope that you will use that with which we entrust you to act with courage and compassion by upholding fundamental good on a scale that we individually cannot, standing firmly in support of the rule of law, international law, humanitarian law, U.S. federal law, and that natural law under which we all exist. I'm anxious to witness the good you will accomplish in keeping your word and not reinvesting any more public money in Israel bonds this August or next February when the third and hopefully final lot matures. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on to the caucus sheet, Executive Eileen Shapiro and Chief of Staff Brian Nelson would like to give us an update on House Bill 335.
Yeah, and I think we're going to start with Colleen Kelly, who is going to give us some updates on what's going on in the latest on what's going on in Columbus, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, Council. If you don't know, I kind of moonlight as our government affairs staffer, so.
Being modest.
Been tracking, obviously, this bill closely, so, we all went down to Columbus last Wednesday. There is another hearing scheduled for 3:35 on Wednesday this week. However, it is invited and written testimony only. And I think I'll let everyone, interpret that as they will. So we will be submitting testimony again. The folks invited to testify, I can read off for you here. The County Commissioners Association, School Business Officials, School Board Association, Mayor's Alliance, Parks and Rec Association, DD Association, Fire Chiefs, Police Chiefs, the Realtors Association, Americans for Prosperity, and the Taxpayers Coalition. So kind of a split between who you can expect to support and oppose. The agenda lists a potential sub-bill being introduced. So if you recall, we don't actually have the inside millage language. There is intent language, their intent to eliminate it, but we don't know how they intend to do that. There's a constitutional question. How do they tackle that? Again, we don't know, so hopefully we will see that on Wednesday. It may not make a difference at that point because the conference committee is underway currently, and we expect a version of the budget to be passed by Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So opportunities to weigh in are very limited. I wrote a couple other notes down. Let me see. We have seen a lot more advocacy efforts this week. Counties seem to be really out front on this. I think that's a credit to our association, the County Commissioners Association. But yeah, we've seen locally, the municipalities seem to have got the word. I've seen surveys going out, what's the impact in your city or your village. Same with the schools. I've seen some emails going out just to families and districts asking them to advocate. We participated in a call with the bill sponsor, Representative Thomas, on Friday. Greta and I got on that. I will say he did not seem to yield any concessions to the county commissioners. There were some pointed questions about the impact on public safety, law enforcement, and as I said, he was not really willing to concede that this bill will have a great and serious impact on these really important county functions. The only thing he really seemed to be interested in was that automatic sales tax increase, maybe up to 0.5%. However, that again wouldn't help Summit County because our charter would, be the deciding factor. So that's kind of where things stand. I don't know if I missed anything, Greta or Brian want me to mention.
It's important that you're all aware that we just continue to find these additional consequences that we did not originally contemplate. There is still no fiscal analysis from LSC. So over the weekend, we were meeting, discussing potential paths forward, and I think it was Phil who identified that this will eliminate the Veteran Services Commission budget that we provide to them, and it will net zero to them. So Larry Moore has taken pen to paper and will be, I assume, submitting that as testimony. But again, we were not invited to testify. However, it can't be overstated. I know that there sometimes have been questions like, what does CCAO do, and how are we involved with them? They have been just really, really good about keeping us informed and advocating and doing everything they can to try and keep us as up to date as they can with what's happening with these legislators. Again, the executive testified last week, and it was very clear to all of us that even if this provision is not jammed into the budget bill, it will be a standalone bill that they intend to pass this General Assembly. So every path forward that we are looking at, we intend to keep marching regardless of whether it passes next week in the budget or not. So this team has been meeting over the weekend. We've engaged some outside counsel and looking at some of our options. We've talked about what this means for Summit County, whether it's a tax levy, whether it's charter amendment, So we continue to have those discussions, and we'll update you, and happy to answer any of your questions.
If I could, before we go to the questions, a couple things I want to add here. As Greta mentioned, so Veteran Service Commission, under state law, they get up to a $0.5 of county inside millage. So that's what funds here. It's a $0.25 which is what they request. We also have a mandate to fund BCMH, Bureau for Children with Medical Handicaps. It's a $0.1 which is about, what are we at, about $1.5 million, $6 million now. That comes out of our general fund from inside millage. In looking at some other things last week, just some data I'm going to share with you. $180 million is collected in Summit County alone from inside millage. $112 million of that is collected by the school districts in the county. $41 million by the county, the rest by the townships and cities and villages. There is, and so as we start looking into the constitutionality of this, the 10 mil charter limitation is embedded in the Ohio Constitution. There is a Section 12 of the Ohio Constitution allows for up to 1% of the valuation of a taxing district to be levied in millage, which is the 10 mills, without a vote of the electorate. So this is something that millage, and what Mr. Rep. Thomas said, well, it says up to 1 mil. But if you look at the history of how the Constitution evolved and arrived there, it originally was unlimited. Then it went down to 15 mils, then down to 10. So the assumption was never that subdivisions would get nothing. It was that they would cap it at 10. So we share with the county share with all of the taxing authorities in Summit County overlapping millage that in no taxing district within the county can go to more than 10 mils. So our 2.2 mils is a part of that. The Constitution also requires that any time the state or a political subdivision thereof enters into bonded debt, that they have to pledge a levy of taxes to repay that debt. Now, our debt is typically what they call general obligation, GO debt, where we pledge more than just taxes, but in that pledge, the underlying credit is inside millage, along with everything else that we collect. In Summit County, there is a little over $800 million of debt with inside millage pledged as the primary repayment source, all under what the Constitution provides that we can and have to do. The bondholders of that debt, in the event of default, have the authority to mandamus the state to collect those taxes. That's part of the public securities laws that the state of Ohio has passed. So as we start heading down this path, I think we run into a whole host of issues, constitutional questions, credit security questions, and it's not just the county or the municipalities, it's all of those creditors, those bondholders who have rights to see those taxes levied and that debt repaid. I am going to leave you with one last thing, and there's more to come. We are having discussions about, it's very clear the state just seems to want to push this through. The fact that there is no bill and the LSC has not been able to do an actual analysis of the impacts at the state level of what this would do. I think it's by design, because I don't think they know that LSC report would create a lot of problems for them, but I can't prove that. But we are a charter county, so we and Cuyahoga County have some options in terms of what you're legally allowed under the Ohio Constitution to do with a charter form of government that the other 86 counties do not have. and it gives us an ability to take more control with voter approval of our own destiny. And so I will just leave it at, I think there's lots more conversations we need to have as it pertains to what that might be.
I would just one more thing. Sorry, it's pertinent that so. Just received a text from CCAO staff. They continue to keep us updated. It looks like the invited list of testimony still doesn't include us, but it has expanded a little bit. And it's important to note that some of your communities have inside millage that is specifically dedicated to police and or fire pension. And so the elimination of those is catastrophic. There are some communities that we looked at that are significant: Talmadge, New Franklin, Greene, very, very significant impact to the public safety services there. So as the municipalities start to mobilize, I suspect that you'll be getting questions about that. So we will continue to update folks on those Tuesday morning calls. I know that you all have received those. I would encourage you, if you're able, to listen in. That's where we will be updating your mayors, your township trustees are not nearly as affected, but certainly it's going to impact their public safety services. Our sheriff patrols some of those townships, and this certainly calls into question our ability to continue to provide those Rotary services. So I would encourage you. We'll also be talking to the charter office holders on Tuesday morning. Obviously, a $40 million impact to our budget means that we've got to have difficult and significant conversations with everyone who has employees coming out of the general fund.
Yeah, that $2 million across Summit County for police and fire pension is levied annually, and there are over $3 million in inside millage levies for road and bridge improvements in Summit County.
Hey, Brandon, Liz is first.
So I'm going to ask a rhetorical question I already know the answer to because I'm so angry about this. Do we still have $600 million in the
Yes.
state budget for a stadium?
Yep. Yes.
Crazy that we are talking about cutting an entire veteran service commission to pay for a free handout to billionaires to build a stadium that no one but them wants. This is obscene. And I'm going to stop talking because I'm probably going to drop some cuss words if I keep going.
Mr. Ford is next.
So, two questions. Last question, or the same question that I posed last meeting, and thank you, Executive, for your advocacy in Columbus. Alternatives. Are we hearing about alternatives, and is there movement? And then, second question, the governor, and whether this becomes a separate bill. Will he sign it?
So Harnack and I have met with a couple of different sets of attorneys about what some potential action could be for us. As far as recommended remedies from the bill sponsor, go pass a sales tax. That's it.
That's the answer.
That is.
There was a bill introduced last week that would raise the threshold to pass a local levy to 60%. So you can see where this is all headed.
I have been engaged with the CCAO staff asking, how do we get an audience with the governor as an association? What does injunctive relief look like? Who is it on behalf of? Because the other part that we haven't circled back to is our obligations regarding our bonds. And so do the bondholders have any course of action here? So we're exploring all of those. It feels like simultaneously, I'm not even sure what happened to today. This is all we've talked about.
Can I add one quick point here, too? I think from an outcome standpoint, if there's anything that we can do, the best case is to get it out of the budget and into a standalone. Because if it's in the budget, we cannot referendum it.
Correct.
It stands no matter what. You can't sue over it or anything. But if it's a freestanding bill, we can lead a petition process to repeal it.
Mr. Wilhite.
Phil, if it zeroes out our contribution to the Veteran Services Commission, do they have any other funding?
No.
So we would be without a Veteran Service Center?
All 88 counties.
All 88. It's not just us. It's all 88 counties.
Every veteran service
All
commission
school
in the state
boards.
is funded by inside knowledge.
That is
the magnitude of this is unbelievable.
Well, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I said it last week, I'm gonna say it again. You have got to get off your behinds, get your pens in hand, and let your representatives and your senators know exactly what's happening. We can do so much, but volume and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You've got to let the governor, you've got to let the state representatives and senators know this is wrong. How do you, after a weekend of tanks rolling down the street in Washington DC at $45 million cost, is okay, but to zero out veteran services in your own backyard is going to be something that you're going to be silent on? I don't understand that. So say what you will, and you can tell me I'm off base, but you've got to get off your behind, and you've got to get those letters and those calls into our representatives, because to say to any lady or gentleman wearing the uniform in this country that we don't care about you is absolutely insane, and that's exactly what we will do if we zero this out. The message is loud and clear: we don't give a damn for your service, and that's wrong.
The Veterans Service Commission is not among the list of invited parties to testify.
Larry wrote a pretty lengthy, jam-packed two-page
We,
letter.
we can send that
We will
to,
forward that
to
along.
Mark.
Yeah, we'll have a stadium. There won't be anybody there to provide fire, EMS, or police services for it, but there will be a stadium. Again, the $40 million, almost half of the general fund payroll. Sheriff's office budget makes up almost a fourth of our general fund budgets. We are talking about the elimination of probably more than 100 sheriff deputies.
Potentially.
Potentially, yes. But I mean, to be realistic about what the ramifications of this are, all of those services that are not mandated, and even many that are, but if you think about the stuff the sheriff's office does for us in communities, detective services, SWAT teams, narcotics units, all of that stuff,
Impact to
the
the jail.
patrol services, we would likely be closing wings of the jail. It would impact the prosecutor's office. It would impact the courts. Like the criminal justice system in this county, at the felony level, at the worst of the worst level, would come to a grinding crawl. Is probably how I would describe the impact of this.
Action items. Action items for council. What can we do now?
So 4 of our 5 state representatives that serve Summit County are on the Ways and Means Committee. So Rep. Romer, Rep. Hall, Rep. Daniels, and
Demetrio.
And Rep. Romer chairs the committee.
They spoke at the hearing.
I spoke at the hearing. He did not return. I didn't call him directly. He did not return Brian's call.
But we did speak. as well,
I'm
but
blocked.
Went down
I
really am blocked.
I would tell you as well, and again, more to come on this, but I look at all this, I think we all look at all this and think, if it doesn't happen right now,
It's gonna happen.
it's not going away. There are some things we need to have discussions about as it relates to the county's charter and tax levy situations that we have to take control of as much of our own fate as we can. And I don't think we have a choice but to do something here locally to make sure that we can continue to provide services.
having said that, we've been discussing the tight time frame. Obviously, it could be a race to the ballot in November, and as everything has to be submitted by August 6th, I believe, you have one council meeting before then. So it may become a situation where we ask council to hold a special meeting in July. But we will certainly continue to provide you these updates for the next 2 council meetings and stay in contact about sort of what we're seeing and what we're hearing from our outside counsel. We've got another meeting tomorrow with an additional set of lawyers to discuss charter language and what that looks like.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on what Councilman Wilhite was saying, and I know most of the people in this room are not really the target because you all are paying attention, but you know, what I noticed was when our libraries were under threat from the State House, there was a big mobilization and people were speaking out, and they still cut libraries, right? But at least they didn't cut them as much. And sometimes that's what we can do right now. So for anyone listening, I just want to echo what Councilman Wilhite said. It's a time to get loud because this probably impacts our libraries too.
There's a piece of the bill related to LGF, I think, yes.
But it's our schools, it's our safety forces, it's everything that's part of the fabric of our communities, and we can't function without this. So this is an attack on all of us, and we all need to be vocal. And yeah, I echo Councilwoman Walters on the outrage that is a $600 million handout, because it just shows what the priorities are. It's not our kids, it's not our veterans, it's not our libraries, it's not sick people in our communities. It's giving more money to people who already have plenty. So
I'll tell you, in talking with just like people in my life trying to explain this issue, I've been using a statistic that I think really puts into perspective county inside millage. So statewide, the property tax burden is $22.5 billion. County inside millage is 4% of that. So they are tackling a very big problem with a hammer, just like we've seen at the federal level, when they really should be using a scalpel approach. And we, of course, know that there is this petition drive, you know, to abolish property taxes. But some of these proposals have never been vetted. You know, they came out at the last minute. And I think it's telling that, you know, we're backed up against the budget deadline. But they really need to slow down, and that's kind of the messaging the executive tried to share last week was like, let's slow down. We all know this is a problem that needs addressed, but the rate at which we are moving is entirely too fast.
The petition drive could go forward even if the state does this. Okay, so they're under pressure, I think they believe, because of that, and some maybe rush to judgment. But they're doing something does not negate that petition.
Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Madam President. Does anyone know if the Buckeye Sheriff's Association has weighed in?
They're on the list now to testify. They were invited. I know that our sheriff penned a letter to Representative Romer and the rest of the the county's state delegation. I asked her staff to forward that over to Mark so that you could all see that as well. And I did just forward the letter that Director Moore wrote over to Mark for you.
Would it be better, and I'm not speaking for all of you, so I'm just asking this general question. Would a letter be more powerful from this council as a whole, or us individually, or?
I say both, by land, by air, by sea, by whatever method you have to mobilize your communities. It is jarring how quickly this effort is moving and how little fiscal analysis has been done. So I think some of our communities are scrambling right now. I mean, we know they are.
We would suggest, though, that it's not a form letter because the chair does not like form letters. So
Mrs. McKinney?
I'm just telling you, that was the word, the message
Mrs.
that was
McKinney?
sent. So.
Thank you, Madam President. So how many members are on the Ways and Means Committee? How many state reps?
I think probably,
Decent sized committee. I think there's maybe like eight R's and 4.
yeah, it's probably
Ds.
12, between 11 and 13.
And then, can you explain the process? So if they pass this, it becomes part of the budget. Does this have to pass the Senate also? And what are our feelings
So
about their reaction?
they're in conference committee right now, which means that there are members from both the Senate and the House who meet together. So it's 3 representatives from each chamber, and then the Senate President and the Speaker of the House all participate in the conference committee. Essentially, that's where a lot of wheeling and dealing happens. the differences between the Senate's priorities and the House's priorities tend to get hammered out there. We haven't heard much from the Senate side on this that I am aware of. We've heard anecdotally they don't really have an appetite for it in the budget, but also we've heard anecdotally that it is a priority of the Speaker of the House, and his priorities tend to carry the day. It does not have to pass out of this committee to be included in the budget. Right now, I keep calling it like a hologram bill. It hasn't truly been introduced in its final form because that would require a fiscal analysis from LSC, which is what I suspect they are trying to prevent, because that's when we figure out all of these terrible poison pills. Because your reaction about Veteran Service Committee, it would be held across the state if people found that out. So that to me sort of points to the fact that they really want to get this in the state budget. It does not have to pass as a bill in order for it to be included. That conference committee will continue to meet until next week, and the first scheduled session is on Tuesday of next week. And at that time, it's not uncommon for both chambers to be in session, for it to kind of be bandied back and forth where some of the changes are accepted by one chamber, some of the changes might not be accepted by the other, and it truly becomes a game of catch back and forth. So it could come down to it being finalized on Tuesday and the budget is ready to go to the governor's desk that day. They may fight it out and say, okay, that's got to be removed, and then we come back to it as a standalone bill. But it is very clear to all of us who were there last week that there is real intention and power behind this movement of getting this done during this General Assembly one way or the other.
I will also note, like in the last decade, I think the state budget's been done on time twice, maybe once. So I think given this, it's probably like you're going to stretch it to maybe into July. Depends on their appetite to hold up their July 4th vacation.
That's just it. I have to tell you, it was, it struck me, having been there before, that the freshman legislator carrying this bill is full of confidence, and rightfully so.
And a significant portion of the new, or the legislature are new members, so they're kind of probably just going to fall in line. They don't really know enough about the process.
I don't think so.
Actually, their commissioner is pretty active and vocal, but
Is he on the executive committee?
yeah, I think his name's Corey Noonan. He's been on calls this week. And CCO was actually in Allen County, like right when this kind of dropped, and it was a topic of discussion. But again, I don't think there was any concessions made. I think it's kind of been decided.
It was very clear that Rep. Thomas had marching orders to cut this, but to not cut anything from the state's budget. When the suggestion from county commissioners was, okay, fine, but now you give us a bigger percentage of the sales tax that we're entitled to, the state sales tax, and he was like, no, 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 no.
And it's effective January 1st.
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, they tried. That's what killed the county officials' pay raise in the lame duck session.
Let me ask you, sorry, I have it right. House Bill 335 eliminates inside millage.
Except for townships.
Except for townships.
So cities, villages, counties, school districts. But again, we don't really know what it says. And I think it does cap townships to whatever their like
Their
growth
currently,
is right now.
Some of our townships will be negatively impacted because we provide their
Yeah.
Yeah, and or from a city. I don't know. Do cities patrol in some of the townships?
No,
Oh, no.
no, they don't.
Okay.
Not here, but I'm sure in other areas
Yeah.
of the state. And to be clear, Jeff, inside village is a thing under the Ohio Constitution. What they're doing is blocking our access to levy it. So it still exists in state law.
Last week, when we came back from, when we had the Board of Elections, when we went for that tour, I was getting on the highway, and there was a white car in front of me with a Washington license plate, and it said on there, "End property tax now." So they got people in here in our state from Washington lobbying this. I tried to take a picture, but I couldn't get it blurry.
That's probably the petition people.
Yeah, I know, but still, I think this all comes from high up, all of this craziness.
I would just tell you to, I have to, when I have the opportunity, thank my staff. Colleen has been the watchdog on the legislative action, and I'm not sure that we'd be in the position we are to react in the ways that we are planning to without her work and her relationship building with CCAO. She's been accompanying the executive to all of those committee meetings and ingratiating herself into that staff. And so we're very lucky to have somebody with the nose for policy and the understanding of the legislative process. So thank you for the work you've done.
Colleen, how fast do you need a letter from the council if we put something together?
It depends on if you want to submit it as testimony. That's due at 11:30 tomorrow. But if you want to just do a letter, you can just send that to the delegation ASAP. We'll get you the executive's testimony when it's finalized. But we are making a plea that should this go forward, they do make a special accommodation for Summit County, just like they're doing for the townships in recognition of their limitations to generate revenue. I think it's a long shot, but we wanted to be on the record in asking for that.
I understand, and I think we all do, understand the frustration of residents around property taxes.
Yes.
We understand the hardship that it places sometimes on folks. But I think what we're trying to communicate here, especially for those that are listening, is that we hear you, but there has to be a better way that doesn't impact the things that are important to making sure that we all have a quality of life that we expect or that we want. So I hear the frustration around property tax every day, as I'm sure you all do. But we have to find a more measured approach to how we tackle it. And Colleen, to your point, sledgehammer is not an option here. Scalpel may be a better, well, it would be a better approach, having good minds get in a room and really think about this in a meaningful way. So,
There have been recommendations from the State Auditors Association that address a lot of those things, and certainly we're in favor of some of those. And the executive has said our team will meet with any legislator anytime. I mean, you all know that the spreadsheets are plentiful and the ideas, right? So we've talked about ways that we can try to alleviate some of that, or we've asked the state, what are you doing to help alleviate that? How are we expanding the homestead? Things like that have been
expanding it.
Well, to everyone.
Well, there is a provision is it in 335, Colleen? Or, okay, so there's a provision in 335 that it's a permissive, allows counties to double the homestead exemption, but the counties have to pay for it.
CCAO voted to oppose that.
With the $40 million of less money that we have to do it.
It's also worth remembering the legislature met over a year. There was a special property tax commission, and inside millage, abolition was never mentioned as a solution. So it's just frustrating to see something like this come out at this time when it's never once been mentioned before.
It was a bipartisan commission appointed by both chambers to study property tax, and they came out with a list of suggestions as well.
And I think they were questioned about that during the testimony. One of the folks that sit on the committee asked them what happened. There were recommendations there, what happened, and they blew past it. They just blew past it. So just imagine, if you will, how many school districts? 612?
In the state, yes.
In the state. 88 counties and all of those municipalities trying to get something on the ballot in November or in the spring. It's mind-boggling. Okay. We need to also, in addition to our team here at the county, by the way, these people are working 24/7 on this, guys. They really are. And CCAO also needs to be thanked because they are doing a lot of that hard work face-to-face and representing us, and they are very clear that Summit County, they represent everybody. Summit County is a special case because of our charter. And so it's all hands on deck. We don't have the answers. We're here to tell you we're working on it. We understand we need Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C because this is, I call it uncoagulated jello. It's kind of mixed in there, but everything's kind of thrown in the pot and nothing's solidified yet. And so we want to keep you as apprised as we can. But Greta's going to talk about it, and Colleen, on the calls, as she mentioned, we want to get everybody mobilized that we possibly can. If you have another source that we could reach out to, please let us know. We think we've covered all the bases, but the more voices, the better. And this is moving at record-breaking speed. So we appreciate your patience in not knowing, because we don't know. So as we move forward, we will keep you as best apprised as we can. Jeff, did you want to say something?
I do. And to the young ladies and gentlemen behind you, you are young law students. You're beginning your careers. You're starting yours. I'm closer to the end of mine. You have a responsibility. And yes, I'm preaching to you, and you don't know who I am, and you can call me a son of a bitch if you want to. But here's the story. Here's the story. You're going to be the ladies and gentlemen that are going to be judges. You're going to be officers of the court. You're going to be elected officials at some point in your career. I'm going to ask you, what kind of community do you want? Do you want a community that tells that man over there with a badge and that man over there with a badge, we don't care? We don't care about your pension. We don't care about your paycheck. We don't care about your families. We don't care about supporting you. But when I pick up the phone, I want your ass at my house protecting me when someone's breaking in or someone's hurting a loved one of mine. That's what's at stake here. You cannot just sit idly by. I know you've got a lot on your plates. You're studying, you're in school, but every one of you has a phone. And I know the power of your phones and what it can mean with a social network. Please, I'm imploring you to get on that social network and let your friends and family know how important this is. Do you want a community that asks people in this community to put on a uniform and protect our country for whatever the reasons are, and then yet we don't give them a commission to help them when they're homeless, when they're hungry, when they need houses, when they can't find jobs, and they have families? That's how we're going to thank them? And to anybody listening, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then you need to go back to your civics classes and you need to become more effective citizens in this community. So please, as young legal experts going forward, it's not just the law degree that you get. It's how you employ that law degree. And you have to ask yourselves, do you want to, at the end of the day, when your families and your children look at you 30 years down the road and ask, what did you do to stop this? Do you want to be able to say, I did X, Y, or Z? Or do you want to say, nope, I went and got a beer at the end of the day after this informational session and called it quits? So when I say we're all in this, I mean it. And if I've offended anybody, I quite frankly don't care. Because this is our community, and if we don't fight for it, we will not have a community. So I'm done.
I cannot wait to talk to Mr. Kolkovich to find out when he asks his interns, well, how was your first county council meeting? The response he gets. He yelled at us the whole time.
This whole guy on council went crazy.
I do want to again commend Colleen and her work at the state level for us. She's got solid relationships there, so we are able to communicate in a way that we wouldn't be able to communicate if we didn't. CCA is wonderful, but without that relationship, it doesn't exist. And they have been tremendous partners for us, not only today, but these folks, it was Father's Day Sunday, they were all working. They're on the phones trying to help this community and in turn help you, help us get done what we need to get done. So thank you all for your attention. More to come, unfortunately, but that's the way it is, so stay tuned. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, everyone, moving on. There is one motion, M033-2025. We have Kyle Julian or Richard Bancroft here tonight. Which one do we have? Are you, okay, Rosia. Okay. This is for the Planning Commission appointment. Would you come on up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, actually, it's nice that we're moving to a more positive topic. My name is Richard Bancroft. I am the executive officer of the Home Builders Association of Portage and Summit Counties. We were chartered in 1943 as the Greater Akron HBA. We have been a resident in Summit County that entire time. And when the invitation came from Executive Shapiro that a representative from our association they would like to recommend for this vacancy on the Planning Commission, I speak on behalf of my association. We are thrilled. We have always been active in the community. Our association has a very high level of integrity, but we also, so many times we're on this side of the aisle, to have an opportunity to be on that side and advise, counsel, persuade, and that's exactly what I look to do in that role. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to.
I just, kind of to you and the man in the audience, to Mayor Mavrides, you have big shoes to fill because he's been an institution on the Planning Commission for many, many years. Thank you, Mayor, for your service. And thank you for joining the commission.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Kyle Julian. Since January 24, I've been the planning director for the city of Akron, appointed there by Mayor Malik. I joined the new administration. And so, obviously, a lot of planning-related work going on at the planning department across the street. Prior to that, I was with the Development Finance Authority for 3.5 years, working on public finance issues, and particularly related to the standing up of the Western Reserve Community Fund, which is a small business, small real estate lending arm of the DFA. And so I got to see how real estate and land use gets worked on from the other side of the table. And then prior to that, I spent a little over 5 years with the East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation working on affordable housing. So I've sort of sat around the table, so to speak, and seen how planning issues get worked on from a number of different angles. I'm excited to represent the city and hopefully represent the city well on the Summit County Planning Commission.
Thank you. Any questions?
These are two great choices. Eileen, thank you. I know their backgrounds, and gentlemen, thank you for serving. And I just want to echo Councilman Walters' comments on Mayor Mavrides. I served on the commission with him for a while, and I have to tell you, I never met a gentleman more fair and open and honest, and the integrity that he brought to that commission. I know both of you gentlemen will do the same thing, so thank you for serving. And Mayor, congratulations on excellent service.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving on, there are 12 first readings. There is one first reading passage request, 2025-178. Phil Montgomery will address council.
Thank you, Madam President. Phil Montgomery from Executive Shapiro's Department of Finance and Budget. We have before council this cycle's appropriation legislation request. On page 1, the first item is appropriating funds to reimburse the general fund. So a while back, with the Legal Defender's Office, council had approved the county providing $1 million in upfront funding to the Legal Defender's Office to build out their new space. We did that. We were able to work through getting the reimbursements through June when they were at 78, 80%, so we recouped most of those funds. Problem we ran into is when the reimbursement came through, we had legal fees on there with the capital fees, and it all got moved, so I got to move some of it back to the general fund that needs to be reimbursed on there. The next one is some additional funds for the remainder of the year. The next one is $15,000 to the Chamber for some additional economic development services. The last item is the $3 million that council previously approved to put a mortgage and loan reworks to build a new administrative building. So they need those funds by July 1st, so we need to appropriate and send those over. On page 2, we have a new grant for the Department of Community and Economic Development. The next 3 are new grants for the juvenile court. The last one on page 3 is just a $100 reduction to clean up a project fund with Common Pleas Court. And on the back page, we have an appropriation request from the probate court for a new accounting system. That is not to be confused with our finance and accounting system. This is a specific outside system for a grant fund and guardianship that they need, and this vendor, according to them, is the one that works in this space. And then on the last one, it is appropriating funds for the engineer for the new surface water management district, because this was the first year of tax collections in the new district, and so we need to appropriate the funds so we can divvy them back out. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You have any questions for Phil? If not, thank you, Phil. We have routine legislation found on pages 5 through 9. There are no second readings. There are no third readings. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Jeff Wilhite, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Ms. Hyam?
Here.
Mr. Donofrio?
Here.
Mr. Cajun?
Here.
Ms. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Wilhite?
Here.
Ms. Darrow?
Here.
Mr. Lacotte?
Here.
Ms. McKinney? Ms. Walters?
Here. Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 2nd, 2025? I have a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions for council. M33, 2025, a motion of council confirming the appointment of Kyle Julian, replacing Dave Klein, and Richard Bancroft, replacing Mayor Alan Maverdes to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
I have a motion on M0332025. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
First readings, 2025-178, a resolution appropriating funds in order to meet projected expenditures for the balance of 2025 as set forth in Exhibit A for the Executive's Department of Finance and Budget Emergency.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and adopt 2025-178 on the suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on the adoption, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
2025-179, a resolution approving the Human Resource Commission revised Social Service Group 27000-27051 through 27056 series, and the addition of a 27030 through 27031 series, as outlined in Exhibit A for the Executive's Department of Human Resources Emergency. 2025-180, a resolution granting design preparations for Springfield Township Springfield Lake Outlet, County Ditch Number 45, Petition Drainage Improvement Project pursuant to Section 6131.12 of the Ohio Revised Code Emergency. 2025-181, a resolution authorizing the publication and legal notices for the proposed public improvement known as the Hinman Ditch, County Ditch Number 52 Improvements Project located in Coventry Township, and setting dates for the public viewing and public hearing pursuant to Section 6131.07 of the Ohio Revised Code for Council Emergency. 2025-182, a resolution authorizing the publication and legal notices for the proposed public improvement known as the Dorwick Ditch Improvements Project located in Northfield Center Township, and setting dates for the public viewing and public hearing pursuant to Section 6131.07 of the Ohio Revised Code for Council Emergency. 2025-183, a resolution to extend the final design report to August 1, 2026 for Northfield Center Township's Norwood Lake, Beach Drive, and Cherry Lane ditch petition pursuant to Section 6131.12 of the Ohio Revised Code. Emergency. 2025-184, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a construction contract with Pavement Technology Incorporated for the 2025 Summit County Regional Asphalt Rejuvenating Program in an amount not to exceed $130,494.61 for the engineered emergency. 2025-185, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a lease purchase agreement with Brown Equipment Company under Sourcewell pricing for a 5-year term for an IBOC Micro Gator cutter truck with a combination CCTV and lateral reinstatement cutter system, which will be financed through Republic First National Corporation at an interest rate of 5.45% for a total amount not to exceed $754,770 for the Executive's Department of Sanitary Sewer Services Emergency. 2025-186, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of Change Order Number 1 to a professional service contract with 4 Points Architectural Services Incorporated for design services for the Summit Center Improvement Project located in the City of Akron in Council District 4 and in an amount not to exceed $40,000 for a cumulative increase of 44.10% for a total amount not to exceed $130,700 for the Executive's Department of Administrative Services Physical Plants Emergency. 2025-187, a resolution authorizing the Executive to execute any documents necessary to apply for, accept, and enter into a Water Pollution Control Fund, WPCLF agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency for the repair and replacement of home sewage treatment systems for the Executive's Department of Community and Economic Development Emergency. 2025-188, a resolution declaring the month of August 2025 as Child Support Awareness Month in Summit County, recognizing that support is key and encouraging the residents of Summit County to join in this acknowledgement and to wear green on August 6, 2025 for the prosecutor and the executive emergency. 2025-189, a resolution authorizing the executive to execute a grant agreement with Arts Now to support the Polsky Building Arts and Culture Project, which aims to expand the arts and culture facilities and programming in the Polsky Building, located in the City of Akron and Council District 4, and in an amount not to exceed $600,000 for the executive emergency.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules and adopt the routine agenda found on pages 5 through 9.
I have a motion to suspend and adopt routine legislation found on pages 5 through 9. On the suspension, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on the adoption, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And if that is all, if there is any further business, we are adjourned. If there's no further business.